today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about what's going on with men and women that women feel like the relationship is so unbalanced. We need to look at the strengths that men bring to the table. Just because someone is less emotionally aware does not mean that he or even she cannot apply themselves. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I'm your host, Rich Heller, and today we are going to define man-keeping. Yes, man-keeping has been a buzzword out there lately. We've seen it in Forbes, we've seen it in the New York Times, and it's been all over social media. And it is a vital and important topic as we look in the shift in the dynamics between men and women, at least in hetero relationships. I'm not sure how it's showing up in other relationships. So let's open up with a question from Wanda. She's 34. She says, why do I feel like I'm carrying his emotions as well as my own? And if you're a man, you may not really get that question. So let me explain what Wanda means. What Wanda means is not only is she managing her own feelings and herself and her feelings in relationship to work and her feelings in relationship to the world and maybe her feelings in relationship to the kids and her feelings in relationship to her man, she feels like she's helping him, her husband, to manage his feelings in all of these arenas as well. That's the basis of man-keeping in 2025. Man-keeping includes tasks like remembering birthdays, coordinating social events, tracking family events and dates, providing emotional support for one another, for the kids, for other family members, acting as a sounding board for problems. And truthfully, man-keeping is often invisible to the men, but it's becoming more and more visible to women. Men just don't seem to realize that these small things start to add up to constant mental work. And there's a reason for this, right? The reason has to do with the fact that the brain that evolves in a genetically female body is more emotionally aware. Generally, the languaging of a brain that's evolved in a genetically female body is more evolved. The expression of emotion can be more subtle or more intense. The exploration of emotion is often much deeper and wider than a brain that evolves in a genetically male body. And so the sensitivity to emotion is much higher. And this can lead to a lot of challenges, one of them being that men don't really get what this man-keeping thing is or how to close this gap. And this series on man-keeping is to both help men to understand what it is and help women to communicate to men how to close that gap. And as we explored in the last episode, this emotional gap is even further expanded by use and abuse of screens. And I'm not just talking social media. I'm not just talking movies and shows. I'm talking gaming. In the last episode, we shared statistics about how 80% of all men 34 and younger game for at least 7 hours a week. Whereas women, when they hit their 30s, that tends to drop off. And we talked all about that. Go to that last episode if you want to hear more about it. There is also a historical echo here. The fact of the matter is that before the 20th century, or the early 20th century really, men were carrying the financial burden and wives managed the family. And what's happened, and we've just done a whole series on this too, if you want to learn more about it, look at previous episodes of Rich in Relationship. What's happened is, as women have fought, demanded, earned, and become financially equal, more and more, we're rapidly approaching an era where women make as much as men in the same role, sometimes even more, sometimes less. The equality is still happening there. As we've moved into an era where both partners are contributors for the most part, Or even when there's a very wealthy family, the woman still wants to develop and grow herself in some professional capacity. As we move into an era where humans develop and grow themselves through their not only way that they earn money, but the way that they give back to the world. What we're seeing is that women are redistributing the mantle they used to carry. And one of the mantles that women used to carry was the emotional well-being of the family and the man. And it was sort of a natural area of responsibility, and I would even say control. I would say that in the time when women were not the prime wage earners, or maybe weren't even wage earners, it was an area of relational power and control. And that's all changed now. Not only are women shedding the mantle of emotional responsibility for the family and their men, but they are now demanding, interesting how man is in the middle of that word, demanding that men step up. And you know what, guys? Just because our brains are not as good at picking up an emotion, just because we're not as practiced or well-versed in expressing, exploring, and being emotionally aware, doesn't mean that we can't step up at this area. And this series is all about that. It's all about the shift from pre-20th century, early 20th century relationships to what they are today and what they are going to become, and how you can become a forerunner in this movement and change. Wouldn't you like to be a forerunner? I would love to be a forerunner. So, John, he's 38. He says, she says she's managing me. Is that supposed to make me feel respected? Right? And guys see that, right? Like we all want to feel respected, right? For some reason, respect is an important thing for us as men. Important for women too, but typically when I work with couples, women will say to me, he doesn't hear me. He doesn't hear my emotions. Men will say, she doesn't understand me or respect me. For whatever reason, culturally, respect is an important word for men. And this idea that they're being managed or man-kept doesn't feel respectful. Oh, what a surprise, right? There's so much to this. Let's talk about this from a shifting power dynamic point of view. So we now live in a situation where men and women contribute to the household. Very often, women contribute more to the household, are now the prime wage earner. I don't know what the percentages are, but it's a heck of a lot more than 100 years ago. And many women felt like they were victims of misogyny. They felt like they were being put down. They felt like they were coming up from underneath the heel of their male oppressors, and rightly so. How much is man-keeping a response to what we're going to call in the next episode, woman-keeping? How much is it a way of women to look down on men? And I'm going to tell you, if you're a woman and you want to look down on a man, emotional awareness is your territory. It is the place where you can look down. And I'm sharing this not because I think that women are a bunch of reverse misogynists. I'm not. I am sharing this because women, you have higher levels of empathy and compassion than men, as we are now evolved, though I expect that to change rapidly thanks to Rich in Relationship in this podcast. And the work that I do with couples, I expect that to change rapidly. I expect men to step up and take the same goal-oriented energy that they've put towards everything in life up to this point and put it towards a win-win situation in their marriage. I expect men to learn how to manage their attention so that they spend more time and energy focusing on their own emotions and the emotional needs of those around them so that they become better at it. Though they may genetically never ever be as good at it as you ladies, I expect men to step up to this plate. Though I expect that, let's be honest, it's going to take a while. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some commitment. It's going to take some tools. I've got a lot of tools for you guys. The unequal distribution of emotional labor is a well-documented historical fact. And the question is, how do we shift it so that men are carrying more of it? How do we shift the family relationships so that men can carry it in a way that honors the genetic structure of the male brain that is just less adept at emotion. And last of all, let's just get that looking down on, acting like you're in charge of, is never healthy for the relationship. And so, ladies, if you feel like you're man keeping, if you feel like you're managing your man, and you probably are, half of the reason why that's happening is you are doing it. And it's because you see there's this huge area of emotional management that needs to happen, and he does not see it. Or even worse, because his mom did it, he assumes you'll do it. Probably both. If we're going to change this, we need to look at the strengths that men bring to the table due to the structure of their brains that evolve in a genetically male body, the strengths that women bring to the table due to the structure of the female brain as it evolves in a female body. And we need to see how to apply those strengths to those specific situations. And I am telling you, just because someone is less emotionally aware or maybe not as good at expressing emotion does not mean that he or even she cannot apply themselves to the emotional basis of the family. A woman listener says, I'm exhausted from carrying this load. How do I say it without turning it into a fight? And the truth is, you are exhausted. Dudettes, you are carrying all the load. Guys, you need to see they're carrying the load while we are acting like children saying, oh, I don't know. They're doing it. They're doing it for you. And the other thing, guys, that you're not getting is you're missing opportunities. When your kids grow up, they will be more connected to her in ways they could have been connected to you if you had stepped in and applied your strengths to those situations. What's required here is, number one, communicating the need. So here's what you're up against, ladies. Men are emotionally dumb. That's the only way I can put it. You might express an emotion to a female friend and she'll pick it up right away. And you might say the same thing to a guy and it'll go right past them. Our ears are just not as attuned to emotion as the female ear is. And so in order to get a guy's attention on this, you can't sit there and say, oh, I'm so tired of managing everything. What's wrong with you? You could say that. That's probably what you've been saying. Instead, what you need to say, you do is present the problem in a way that a guy can sink their teeth into. So the trick is to express frustration as a request in a way that challenges the male brain. Now, that may seem ridiculous. Like, why should I have to do this? Well, if you want to be heard, at least for now, until your guy gets tuned up, tooled up, and trained up, it's what's going to work. For example, what you could say is, you know, honey, for years, I have been managing the relationship between your parents and us, and my parents and us, and to some extent, even your siblings and my siblings. And you've done some of the communication. I'm not going to take that away from you. Or maybe he hasn't. Or maybe he has. Let's just pretend he has. Let's pretend he's a little aware. But can't be the main breadwinner or a half breadwinner and organize these family events and make sure that everyone knows when to be where and how, and make sure that everything's arranged according to the emotional needs of everyone involved. I can't do all of that. Here's what I need. I need you to sit down with me, number one, and together, let's calendar some dates. And then I need you to take a hold of those dates. And I need you to reach out to the different family members and let them know what we need from them logistically to make whatever that event is happening. So, you know, how we've been talking about having that family picnic, you know, everyone brings something, family picnic. I want you to once we pick out the date and the location, I want you to manage just sending out the emails and copy me because I'm going to follow up with everyone. Now, ladies, that's a lot. It may be a lot more than your guy is doing. What you probably don't want to do is have him pick out the menu unless it's something he's really good at. All right. And maybe there are some guys who are really good with foods. Maybe you're going to put him in charge of that. But the point is, you want to lean into strengths. You might want to give him the task of sending out directions. You might want to give him the task of researching public transportation. These are logistical, task-oriented, goal-oriented things, are things that guys do really well. You might want to lean in yourself if there are going to be sleeping arrangements involved. If you're all going to be in a big house, you might want to sit down with some of the other more emotionally aware members of the family and figure out how the sleeping arrangements are going to work and how the guys are going to help with childcare, right? And you're going to assign them some childcare, but frame it as a request. This is going to go so much further than you're so emotionally unaware and I'm carrying everything. And when are you going to step up? Because the truth is, he doesn't even know what you're talking about. But if you bring him into the tasks and have him organize them, he will step up. Unless if he's a particularly if organization is not his strength, lean into his strengths. So what I'm telling you is call into the strengths of your man and engage him in these processes and treat him like you would a new employee at work. You want to first, before you delegate completely, you want to frame the purpose of the event, the whole thing with him, give him the big picture. You want to break it down into tasks. Maybe ask him, hey, which of these tasks do you feel like you could own really well? And then take on the rest. Just that is going to get stuff off of your plate. And let him go into the tasks that he knows he can do really well with strength. And then the next time that event comes around, maybe he's going to take more. That's the first step. This is like baby steps. The big picture problem is getting him emotionally involved. The big picture problem might be unhooking him from whatever the distractions are so that he's giving you and your family the attention it needs and deserves. And you can't unhook him. I speak it like you're responsible for it, but you're not. It might be a matter of calling him out and saying, hey, you know what? I know you love your screen time with your friends, and I got to ask you to limit it to this because there's just so much to do in this house, and I can't have you disappearing for 7 to 20 hours a week. Jim, he's 29, says, I don't step up for family things, but I'm just not into that stuff. You may not be into that stuff, guys, but you need to get into it because here's the way relationships work. Relationships have 3 facets to them developmentally. All right. On the one end, there's the emotional development. There's an emotional bank, let's call it. And you need to be feeding into the emotional bank of the relationship. You're either withdrawing or making deposits. And if you're not into something and you're leaving it to her and she's feeling overwhelmed, guess what? You're withdrawing. Then, on the second front, there's the development of the relationship itself. Relationships develop in stages. There's being in love. There's a sort of individuation, finding out differences, pulling apart a little. Then there's working your way back together. And then there's sort of a synergistic learning how to work together. So you need to find out, first of all, where's your emotional bank, guys? I promise you, it isn't going to be super positive. You need to find out where you are. You're probably individuated, but not coming back together. And then there's this last piece. There are stages of relationship in the world. The stage of the relationship in the world go like this. First, there's a couple. Then there's young kids. Then there's older kids. Young kids, you're trying to figure out how to live. Older kids, you've got time back to yourself. Then there's launch time. Kids start launching to college. Big transition. And then there's post-launch, which is, what will we call it? Stewardship. Families, you become a family steward. There's no retirement. At each of these phases, the success of you as an individual and of your marriage and of your family is directly contingent on you stepping in and doing the things that you're just not into as well as the things you're really into. Because in all of these areas, if you're not willing to step into the things that you're just not into, you're either moving away from your partnership and your family, or you're moving closer to your partnership and family. And ladies, if you're not educating your guys on what's happening, on where the emotional bank is, I mean loudly. I don't mean the little ways that you do it. Typically, ladies, this is what happens. Ladies poke their men. Hey, I really need you to do this. And then it's, hey, you need to do this. And then it's, hey, if you don't do this, I don't know where this relationship is going. And then it's, if you don't do this, we're going to start talking about divorce. And then we're going to serve you with divorce papers. In all of those different levels of poking, there's an effort to wake the men up. I'm going to suggest to you that you just throw out and just say, honey, do you love me? They always say, of course I love you. Why would you even ask? If you love me, I demand that you invest in our relationship. And if they don't know what the relationship is, you got to educate them. Send them to my podcast. Send them to me. I'm the husband whisperer. Let's get them up to speed on what is a relationship and how does it work. And once they understand, you won't have to poke them anymore. You won't have to smack them. Divorce papers, that's like a wake up. You won't have to do that. A lady writes, it's like he hears my words, but he misses what I actually mean. Why can't he read me? Your man is emotionally deaf. It means he only understands when it's an interruption to his goal. That's part of why I said speak to him about his love for you and his relationship to you. But there's more to it than that. It's not just that the male brain is less attuned to emotion. It's also that the culture that we're in is all about violence. It's all about stimulation. It's all about dopamine. It's all about adrenaline. It's all about the man box. The man box it says that men should not feel emotion, that when they fall off their horse, they need to get back on. It says that men shouldn't engage in sad. They shouldn't engage in feeling alone. They shouldn't engage in fear, because real men are courageous and they meet things head on and they get stuff done. That's what the culture says. And the truth is that men who live that way might become really good drone pilots or even good field warriors, but they're going to be horrible partners and terrible parents. And not only that, they're going to be massively unfulfilled. The trick for guys in 2025 is to learn how to be vulnerable. The basis of all emotion is vulnerability. Vulnerability necessitates sad, hurt, fearful, alone. That's part of when we're vulnerable, we risk those things, and inevitably we're going to experience them. And we need to learn how to have those feelings and navigate them so that we can still show up in strength in our family. That is the challenge. So what you're up against, ladies, is not just the structure of the male brain, but a culture that has reinforced that deafness to emotion is not only good, but necessary. And it's going to take a while before we get your guy unplugged. If you're a guy listening to me, it's going to take a while before we get you unplugged and retrained so that you can be a warrior and a lover, so that you can be a warrior for healing instead of a warrior at the expense of your children and yourself. That was a mouthload, a boatload, a lot of words. All right, so we're going to wrap it up like this. There is hope. It is inevitable that men make it there emotionally. The question is, how fast do you want to get there, guys? The question is, ladies, how fast do you want them to get there? How loud are you willing to be? How gentle, guys, are you willing to be? How much are you willing to change old habits and start new habits? Where do you want your focus to be? And part of it is going to be understanding more about the historical context of how relationships were and how that power dynamic is shifting. And that's what the next episode is all about. The next episode was about women keeping, how we're moving from the old model into something new. Not man keeping, but something new. So stay tuned to Rich in Relationship. And in the meantime, have an awesome day and an amazing tomorrow.